Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to race number 15 of Season 5 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I'm Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Monster Energy 400 here at Denver Motorsports Park, a brand new racetrack to this series, and we're actually going to be going here twice. First for the regular track, and then later when the chase happens, we're going to the Roval here, which will be very interesting, but we're going to be testing the waters with the oval of the racetrack first. Originally, we were going to go to New Hampshire, but the track sucks, so we're not going there ever again for this series. But before we take a look at the starting lineup, let's do the usual top 10 in points. So after last week, after a rather interesting yet bizarre Canadian Tire race, Joshua Collard still leads the points by 27 points over Carson Gum. Third is Paul Minnick, fourth Benjamin Miles, fifth Dylan Jacobs. Sixth is Sean Galligan, seventh DJ Curtis, eighth Dougie Shears, ninth is Dylan Young, and then 10th is Dylan Poteet. As far as who was the biggest winner and loser after Canadian Tire points-wise, Raphael Leduc moved up from 27th to 17th in points, so he was the big winner points-wise after last week, but the biggest loser from last week is ironically the pole sitter for today, James Shelley, who was 13th. Now he's 21st in points. So, will the tides change? Well, it's guaranteed, considering where we're at. So, let's take a look at the points, the starting lineup. Starting in the last row is Sean Galligan, DJ Curtis. Top 10, James Shelley on the pole, like I mentioned. Starting next to him is the reverse number of him, Dylan Thoreau. Row 2 is Dylan Jacobs, Ryan Butcher. Row 3, Dylan Young, Charles Sanford. Row 4, Tim Fiegel, Raphael Leduc. And then row 5, James Qualls and Cody Lamas. Let's go ahead and get the command to fire engines for the Monster Energy 400 at Denver.
Drivers, start your engines!
So this is going to be a unique race, considering this is virtually going to be an unknown for every single driver here, because they have not been to this racetrack before in this series. But from what I've seen, this track is basically like an amalgamation of a 1.5 mile, 2 mile, and restrictor plate racetrack, where they go very fast and don't really slow down too much, but it's in sort of a similar layout to a 2 mile racetrack, except it's 2.2 miles big. So it's a big track, so to speak, but they do have to use sometimes let off the gas in order to make a corner. And also, as you can tell, possibly the apron could come into play in this race. But the pace car pulls in the pit road, so you know what time it is, right, people? It is time to boogity go racing. Interesting fight to the start-finish line to see who was going to lead lap number 1, and it was James Shelley who led that lap, barely over Dylan Jacobs. And as you saw when they were in turn 3, the drivers on the bottom had to lay off the throttle, and I don't know why. I guess we'll have to look into that to see what will happen going forward when we go to the oval portion of this racetrack. Because like I said, when we get to the chase, we're going to the Roval, the road course of this place, for the chase. But yeah, let's actually watch the speeds, and they are going really fast. 211, 212 right there, and then you see they do have to slow down about 20 miles per hour to make that corner. But other than that, they don't have to use brakes. They just let off the gas. But right now, the top four is actually starting to pull away from the rest of the field, as Shelley leads over Jacobs, Thoreau, and Sanford. But side by side, actually, now for second between Jacobs and Thoreau. Though you gotta wonder that the outside lane is actually going to be the preferred line at this racetrack. In fact, let's watch the 78 and see how much he gets off the gas. Not as much as the 17 of Dylan Thoreau. So yeah, the outside's going to be where you want to get to at this racetrack. But since the drop of the green flag, James Shelley has held on to the race lead. But Dylan Jacobs, he's trying to get the bottom to work, and he's actually got a big enough run. And here he comes to the bottom. But I don't know. Close at the line still between the two, but Shelley still led that lap. And Sanford actually going to try and give a bit of draft help to the 78. And he's still keeping up side by side. In fact, Jacobs got a bigger run off of 4 than Shelley did with the draft. But Shelley's still utilizing the preferred line. But let's watch here in turn 3 and watch the speed difference between the high side and low side. And there you saw it. The bottom lane had to let off the gas a little bit more than the outside, and Shelley's going to keep the race lead, at least for now. And Sanford may actually try and get around the 78. 4 wide, and again, the apron's going to be a big factor at this place. Because you can run the apron. Too bad you may end up scrubbing off more speed than you can handle. But you can use the apron if you want to go for moves. Meanwhile, because it's side by side between the 03 and the 78, the 71 of Shelley is actually pulling away from the rest of the field, which is very, very interesting. So we're going to see if we stay green for a longer period of time. We'll see who's got a good enough car to catch the 71. And right now, Sanford actually goes by for second because he ran the outside groove. Let's see if he can reel in the 71, and he is starting to do that a little bit. Meanwhile, I saw James Qualls. He actually got by 2 cars at the end of that previous lap going into the lap we're currently on. He's gone by 2 cars, and he's up to 5th now. He got by Patrick Smith and Dylan Thoreau. In fact, Dylan Thoreau, even though he's up on the outside, he's actually losing time, which is interesting. Oh, one car got the wall. Couldn't tell who it was. But Dylan Thoreau continuing to lose spots despite being on the outside. Maybe they just don't have a good enough car to keep up or something. I don't know. But top 5 have pulled away from the rest of the field again. And right now it's Shelley, Sanford, Jacobs, Young, and Qualls racing it out. And it's pretty close between the top 3 right now. Sanford trying to run the low lane to try and get the lead. But does he have enough speed to lead at the line? No, he didn't quite get the lead at the line. Shelley still led that lap. But the 78 trying to return the favor to Sanford for what Sanford did for Jacobs earlier in the race by giving him a push. And we got a new leader. Charles Sanford has cleared James Shelley for the lead. And actually now has a gap between himself and the 71. Interesting development right now here at Denver, and only about a lap and a half away from halfway here at our first ever race here at Denver. Meanwhile, we could see a battle for third begin between Dylan Jacobs and James Qualls. In fact, Qualls going to pull out down low, but can he keep that momentum going? Right now, Qualls seems to be one of the faster cars on the racetrack because he's moved up quite a few spots since the drop of the green flag. But meanwhile, we may have a reigniting battle for the lead again between Sanford and Shelley, but Shelley going to fall back in line. And Jacobs, because he's got a stronger outside line car, he ends up holding off Qualls for that position for the time being. But now the 78 trying to take second away from Shelley, as Qualls actually trying to make it 3 wide for second. This is going to be interesting. Who's going to captivate and prevail from this? Right now, Jacobs stuck in the middle, not where he wants to be, as he actually got passed by both cars. It's like if you're in the middle, you're pretty much a sitting duck. So now Jacobs falls back to 5th, and here comes the winner from last week of Canadian Tire, Cody Lamas. He's trying to go for a second straight top 10 finish, possibly top 5 finish, which has been a nice, somewhat nice turnaround for the 48, despite still being last in points. He won a Canadian Tire, which has given him a huge confidence boost, and right now he's up to 5th, having a great run as we've got less than 9 laps to go, as it's still side by side for the lead between Sanford and Shelley. Dylan Young is up here. He could be the deciding factor on who gets the race lead, potentially. And right now, he's going to stay on the outside, and he might actually go by James Shelley for that spot, as you can see right there. But right now, Charles Sanford hangs on to the race lead, but doesn't have a big gap. It's still relatively close throughout the whole field. Couple stragglers back here, DJ Curtis, who's top 10 in points, and Chris Dollarton. And then the other of the guys in the bottom 5 are Yepes, Galligan, and McCrory. Kind of uncharacteristic to see Sean Galligan in the back. Not having a great run here in his debut at this racetrack. But look at Cody Lamas in the 48 trying to run the bottom to get some positions. And right now, he's making it work. He actually just got by James Qualls, trying to get by Dylan Young, but Dylan Young keeping that speed that he has on the outside to keep himself in contention. Meanwhile, Carson Gum actually got by Dylan Jacobs for the 6th position. 6th position. I can never say that right. 6th. I guess that's going to be the best I'm going to say it. Meanwhile, top 3 were nose to tail, and now they're trying to break up each other's wakes. Shelley trying to run the bottom again to try and get the lead back. And it looks like he will lead at the line, so he does have the lead back for now. But can he clear Sanford? If he were to move up high now, he would clear him. But he's got Lamas lurking there now on the bottom as it's side by side for the race lead now. But we've been seeing some pretty solid racing here at this racetrack, and they're racing each other very, very clean. So that's nice to see here at this racetrack. Shelley may lose the lead now to Cody Lamas as Lamas uses the bottom groove. And he thought about trying to go up high in front of Shelley, but maybe he's hesitant to do it. Maybe now, if he were to go up high now, yep, he has cleared Shelley. So Cody Lamas, new race leader, trying to go for 2 in a row. To be the 3rd driver this season to win 2 races in a row. It was Matt McIntyre earlier at, I want to say, Las Vegas and California. Then Dougie Shears, if I were to recall, I believe it was Talladega and Kansas. Lamas right now, who won at Canadian Tire, trying to go for a 2nd win in a row here at Denver, as it's now 4 laps to go here at this debut race. And he's actually pulling away from the rest of the field as it's still side by side. Sanford and Shelley have been racing each other side by side or nose to tail pretty much all day long. Qualls been side by side racing for the most part with Dylan Young for a good chunk. Same with Dylan Thoreau and Dylan Jacobs. And Dylan Thoreau, I'm actually surprised. He's made a somewhat of a comeback run. He was falling back like a rock for several laps in the beginning, and now he's found himself back into the top 10, potentially top 5 territory. And how about James McLeod? Oh, actually, Rafael Ledoux came into pit road. I think that was a potential sign that we could see pit stops. And Jessica Sheldon's on pit road, so we could see drivers possibly run out of gas. So this race here at the very end is going to get really interesting if anybody's coming into pit road or not. But right now, Cody Lamas has a pretty big lead, and Charles Sanford is going to sacrifice. So do does Lamas. Lamas and Sanford are going to sacrifice potentially a win or top 5. James Shelley has the lead back. It's going to come down to who's got enough gas. Oh man, we could be in for an interesting finish here. Will any of these drivers up here at the front have to come into pit road? At least this time. Let's watch. Helicopter view. We'll keep an eye out here on this top 10 or so. Nobody electing to come in out of everybody on track, so it looks like they're going to try and stretch it out the rest of the way. White flag is out. Qualls actually took the lead on that lap. He's got to run to the inside with help from Benjamin Miles. Miles has found himself in contention now. But Qualls, he's had a pretty solid race car all day long, been gradually moving up the field. At one point passed 2 cars in 1 lap, and now he's found himself in the lead, and I believe he came into this race top 10 in points. No, actually 13th. He fell some spots. But he's still got the lead, although Miles is coming to the bottom. We could be seeing a photo finish. Holy crap, it is going to be close. Checkered flag waving. Qualls gets it. James Qualls wins the Monster Energy 400 at Denver by 2/100ths of a second. Closest finish, I believe, this season. And it was a great one. Holy baloney. But congratulations to James Qualls. I believe, yes, that is his first win this season. So he keeps his winning streak of winning at least once per season still intact. So great job on the part of that Johanna Long number 70 paint scheme for James Qualls. Great racing from him pretty much all day long. But let's look at the rest of the results. Benjamin Miles, I believe if he made that move a little sooner, he probably could have had it by maybe a bumper, but he still helped to make a fantastic finish. Finishes in second, and that's going to help him out a little bit in the point standings. Not much, but it's going to get him somewhere. James Shelley, one of the dominant cars of the day, came through with a 3rd place run. Dylan Thoreau, with perhaps the comeback of the race, started top 2, I believe. Yeah, he started 2nd and then fell back to outside the top 10 early on, and then comes back. It's a 4th place finish. Dylan Young, who ran top 10 pretty much all day, finishes in 5th. Same with Dylan Jacobs, who finishes in 6th. James McLeod with a great run in 7th. Joshua Sekuli with a finish in 8th. Carson Gunn with a solid run in 9th, and then perhaps still going to be the points leader, Joshua Collard, finishes in 10th. Then there's the rest of your top 20, top 30, and then the rest of the field. And we actually had one driver, actually might have had an engine failure, and that was Ryan Butcher. He had something go wrong with his car, and then Leduc was a lap down, and then Jessica Sheldon 5 laps down. I don't know, that's interesting, but nonetheless, that does it for our coverage here at Denver. Next week, depending on if the testing goes well, we could be still at Iowa, maybe not. We'll see. But until then, Here are your final results, rookie points and regular points heading into our next race, which could be Iowa still. And this is Levi McIntyre signing off.